This video shows how to do the cast-on edge for the hat. The hat is knit in stockinette, and it doesn't have any ribbing at the bottom. And the problem with stockinette is that unless you do something with it, it's going to roll. And I messed around when I was designing this hat with doing a Latvian braid, and I discovered that I could do half of a Latvian braid and get kind of a nice cast-on edge that didn't roll. Now, notice that I have cast on using the long tail cast on, and this is given this very nice looking edge at the bottom. And what the Latvian braid technique does is it produces the reverse of this, so it kind of looks like a braid, and it tends not to roll. So that's why I chose it. Now, I've cast on onto double pointed needles. You could use a long tail cast on or one single not a long tail. You could use the long circular and double loop it, or two circular needles, whichever you prefer to use. It's just up to you. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work this stitch onto this needle just to anchor it. And notice that I have this extremely long yarn tail from my cast on. I actually measured off 4 yards. 2 yards for the cast on and 2 yards for the Latvian braid. And the reason that you do this is that you need alternating yarns, and in a braid situation it's most frequently done in different colors. But because I want this to be one color, I have two pieces of yarn, the working yarn and then the very long yarn tail. And doing this prevents you from having to tie on another skein of yarn. So I'm going to work this, and I'm just going to use one of these yarns to work the first stitch, and I've got it there. Alright, now I've got my 2 yarn tails here. And how the Latvian braid works is that you purl every stitch, and on the first row you bring the yarn from the second stitch over the yarn tail of the first. So I'm just going to bring that over there, and now I'm going to bring the yarn from this piece and I'm going to bring it over my working yarn, and it's that working yarn, it's the yarn that I'm stranding over that's going to provide the braid effect. Here's my second stitch. I'm going to pull it over, and as you can see, this is fairly tedious. I've got 4 needles, I've got 2 different yarns, and it's a real pain in the patoot, but it's worth it, and the bottom ridge doesn't roll as much. Now, if I were doing a real Latvian braid, I would, on the next row, do the same thing, but I would bring the yarn under the working yarn. But in this case, I'm taking it over, and then over. And I'll show you what it looks like in a second. Now, I've got enough to show you. Now, what that's doing is it is provided, because I'm using my cast on edge here, and this is the yarn from the braid, it's providing sort of like almost a chain effect, but interlocked, braided, and when the hat is done, that will not roll at all. It provides a very solid base. It is stretchy, so it's not going to restrict the movement of the hat, but it is not going to roll up as much, and that's why I chose to do it.